hot weight to cold weight shrinkage in beef is a major problem in the beef industry. The normal range is 2 to 4%. In all the years we've been producing forage, fattened, salad bar beef, we've never lost 1 ounce to shrinkage, even when the carcass has hung for 2 weeks. The protein is pure food, not so much soft energy and white fat. It is time for confinement dairies, feedlots, broiler houses, and egg factories to defend themselves in a court of ethics. Their practices not only foster a row crop agriculture and its accompanying use of chemicals and topsoil loss, but engenders in our society needless sickness, and for those of us who dare to say animals. Just like people differ according to their production and processing, let the record show that greens reign supreme. Grass-fed animal proteins offer consumers a vicarious salad, good food without guilt. Fat animals and fat people go together. Chapter 4. In 1967, when I was 10 years old, I purchased 50 straight run-heavy breed chicks from Sears and Roebuck, beginning a love affair with farming and business that gets stronger each day. As usual, 2/3 of the chicks turned out to be roosters. The 18 hens supplied eggs for the family and enough to sell. Dad and Mom bought eggs from me, and I peddled the balance to folks at church and in the community. We dressed the roosters, heating the water in a big pot over a fire and plucking the birds on the clothesline in the backyard. Dad showed me how to gut a chicken, and we were off and running. About that time, my older brother Art was developing a rabbit business. Realizing the importance of low-cost production models and the benefits of moving livestock around, Dad immediately set to work designing a portable rabbit rearing system. For some reason, we visited a man about 20 miles away who had portable hutches in his pasture, and Dad was enamored with the idea of moving the buildings around in the field. I still can't remember what the man had in the hutches, but they were A-frames. I think he had pigs in there, but it doesn't matter now. Of course, Dad was no doubt familiar with portable chicken houses on skids that farmers would pull around their fields with horses. Any poultry book published before 1950 has photographs of such structures. Anyway, Dad had already built a portable veal calf barn with slatted floor and 4 quadrants. The milk cows would shade up near it and graze next to it in the pasture. At milking time, the calves would jump outside, suckle the nurse cow tied to a corner of the veal trailer, and then go back in for some fresh hay and grain. This procedure kept the calves close to the cows, spread the droppings in the pasture, and gave the cows a comfortable place to lounge. Dad was very much a visionary and inventor, developing a portable electric fence system in the early 1960s. Dad immediately set to work designing a portable rabbit facility. He came up with a squatty rectangular house containing 4 quadrants for 4 does, with a narrow door in each that opened into an enclosure. The enclosures mounted against the house like wings off an airplane. The wings were 8 foot by 12 foot long and divided lengthwise down the middle so that each quadrant's rabbits, normally either a doe and her litter of bunnies, had access to a run that was 4 foot by 12 foot. By moving the whole contraption every few days, we could provide the rabbits with fresh forage, keep them much cleaner and healthier, and dramatically reduce feed costs. After all, rabbits are herbivores. But, alas, rabbits like to dig. And this was our Waterloo. We tried many things, including poultry netting, buffers on the edges. Art even drove 1-inch nails in the bottom board every inch or so, sticking down. But no matter what we tried, we could not keep the rabbits in. Any little depression in the ground was an invitation to escape. We spent many hours rigging up string, stick, and box traps and hiding behind the corner of the shed, waiting to pull the string and catch rabbit escapes. We probably spent more time chasing rabbits than actually raising rabbits. Finally, we abandoned the idea for rabbits and began carrying them fresh forage that we cut with a scythe or reel mower. About that time, I was expecting my poultry flock, acquiring more egg customers and needing more housing. Dad suggested that I use the now defunct rabbit runs as portable chicken pens. We took out the middle partition, and the first portable chicken pen was born. That was about 1970. An amazing thing happened when we put the layers in the pen and began moving them around the pasture. Their feed consumption dropped considerably. Even though they had always had a yard in which to run, we began to see the importance of a daily fresh salad to stimulate consumption. Nobody likes a plate of stale food, not even chickens. In the winter, we moved the chickens and the pens into the barn on mesh floors. Immediately, feed consumption increased by 30%. In early spring, we would move the birds back outside on the grass. In order to sell more eggs, we began marketing them at a local farmers market called the Club Market, begun during the Depression as a way for farm families to earn cash. By the time I began selling there in 1970, as a 13-year-old, it had dwindled to only 2 vendors, 2 elderly women. I joined 4-H in order to sell there, and that exempted us from all inspection requirements. We were under the auspices of the Extension Service, which had arranged the exemption with the State Inspection Department. One lady sold baked goods. That's where I discovered my affinity for pound cake and potato salad with sweet pickle in it. The other lady came from a more diversified homestead and sold pork, baked goods, and vegetables. At the time, we were milking a couple of Gurney cows by hand. We sold eggs, beef, pork, rabbit, chicken, vegetables, butter, cottage cheese, and buttermilk. The market opened at 6 a.m. on Saturdays and closed about 11 a.m. As I culled old laying hens, I butchered them, cooked them in a large roaster pan, picked off the meat, packed it in quart freezer containers, and sold it as pre-cooked processed chicken at the curb market. An ice-cooled display case kept things cold. This meat went like hotcakes. I well remember at the time that the going price for spent hens was 19 cents, and mine were yielding nearly $2. Certainly it had processing time and money in them, but not that much. As the flock increased, I needed a more efficient way to butcher. I ran an ad in the Rural Electric Cooperative magazine for a chicken picker. I didn't know they were called pickers. I called it a plucker, and received a response. We hitched a trailer to our 1963 Chrysler Newport and drove across the state to buy an old tabletop type from a man on the eastern shore. With that picker, I could come home from school and butcher 30 old hens in a couple of hours. My assistant slave was my sister, Loretta, who was 5 years younger than I. The curb market experience taught me marketing skills and business acumen. Dad taught me early the need to make a profit so that I could replace my inventory of hens as they wore out. I developed a great appreciation for consumers for selling a product that exceeds the customer's expectations and for competitive pricing. That was in the days before the health awareness hit the mainstream, when people were still eating butter and beef. From farm chemical usage hadn't even become a vogue topic yet. I also learned how much more money can be made by value adding to the product and taking it directly to the customer. Dad viewed this as an excellent opportunity to build a direct market business free of encumbering inspection requirements, providing higher quality food than conventionally produced food, but at a competitive price. When I went to college, we shut the booth down. I liquidated my 300 laying hens and unknowingly hammered the last nail in the curb market coffin. 4 years later, the curb market was gone. Apparently, the 2 elderly matrons had been holding on, inspired by the enthusiasm of a teenager. I often wonder what could have been had we kept the booth open. Our grandfather Claw's protection may have given us opportunities practically unheard of in today's regulation-happy environment. Even as a child, I dreamed of farming full-time. Dad and Mom both worked off the farm to pay for it and spent the early years doing research and development and conservation work. After graduating from college with a bachelor's degree in English, I worked as a full-time reporter for our local daily newspaper for 3 years before coming to the farm full-time September 24th, 1982. Teresa and I lived in an attic apartment in the farmhouse, drove a 15-year-old car, did not have a television, and committed ourselves to a dream. People who want to farm must be committed enough to sacrifice for it. Young people who want to farm could even devote their time and energy to a farmer they know, working for free if necessary to show their character and commitment to merit being entrusted with a farm. Often, however, teenagers are too busy buying the late model car, the newest home entertainment gadget, renting the latest video, and visiting the latest trendy clothing store. There is neither time nor energy to pursue a vision. Dad and Mom paid for the farm and gave us a running start, but we took the foundation and laid a profitable business enterprise on it. A business that did not become lucrative until several years down the road. Opportunities still exist for those willing to go against conventional thought and commit themselves to a dream. I trust that this book will inspire you in new directions with renewed commitment. In the beginning. Chapter 5. Getting started. A pastured poultry enterprise is ideally suited to piecemeal starting. This spreads capital investment over time and reduces catastrophic failures. The philosophy today to start a business is to find investors, borrow a pile of money, and jump into the enterprise. Few people start in the back closet with a few extra dollars and let the business grow slowly into a full-time enterprise. But pastured poultry can easily be done that way. I suggest that you start with 50 or 100 broilers. We started with 400 and that was too many. The second year we backed off to 300. The third year we jumped to 800, but that was the third year. Don't worry about selling any from the initial production. Plan to eat them all yourself. If they are nice, give away a few, but that will just be the cream. You would be amazed at the things that can go wrong. So the most reasonable thing to do is assume that you have problems and be pleasantly surprised if in fact you get a good portion of those initial birds up to slaughter. You will get your chicks from a hatchery, probably air freight through the mail, unless you live within driving distance of a hatchery like we do. Don't push the season. Remember that cold is one of the hardest things on baby chicks. Start your first batch after they can be assured postal handling at 50 degrees in non-heated trucks. If you have to wait until late May or June in order to do that, do it. Believe me, the wait will be worth it. Once you are an expert, then go ahead and push them all you want, but I advise against it initially. Your initial experience should be rewarding and pleasant, and the best way to ensure that is to minimize the potential risks. When the chicks arrive, you need to get them warm, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, as soon as possible. If they are cold, they will not eat. Their first desire is warmth that supersedes everything else. For 100 chicks, an area 10 feet square is adequate. A couple of cardboard boxes in your house with a light bulb hanging down is fine. Use a thermometer to check the temperature at chick level. I know one lady who put the box on top of the refrigerator where it was warm. You can use a wood stove as well, or a furnace in the basement. You will need a waterer and feeder, but initially just some newspaper with feed and grit sprinkled on it is fine. You want unlimited access to both feed and water. Use dry sawdust or shavings for bedding. If you put the chicks in the house, remember to control the cat and dog for obvious reasons. One pen is adequate for this number of birds, and I suggest that you construct it prior to receiving the chicks. The temptation is to go ahead and get the chicks. The inevitable delays that accompany research and development will occur, and before you know it, the chicks will be crowded and you won't be ready to move them outside. The feed can be a problem if you are a purist and do not want to use commercially manufactured feed. Most mills will not customize mix less than 1,000 pounds of feed. I suggest that you just use the regular chick feed. It will have antibiotics in it, of course, but you have to start somewhere. Get the least medicated possible. Realize that this is a temporary thing. Next time, when you step up to a couple hundred birds, you can get your ration custom blended. The only other solution is to get your feed from someone who is already raising poultry with our ration. Several folks in our area come and get feed out of our tanks for their small flocks. We certainly do not want to get into the feed business, but we are glad to help a person who is trying to produce his own food. With the chicks up and going and out in the pen, you are pretty well set until processing. Obviously, this too needs to be planned before the chicks arrive. You can process the birds by hand or purchase some very reasonable small-scale processing equipment. If you do them by hand, invest in a submersible thermometer so that you can be sure your water is at 145 degrees Fahrenheit. You can use a pot over a wood fire or rig up a gas burner or plumb an electric element in a metal barrel. I can't begin to suggest all the ways to rig up a scalder. Only you know what resources you have. You can hang the birds on a piece of string for picking. That would be the simplest way if you are picking them by hand. Water and a clean table surface are necessary for the eviscerating. This is as simple a startup plan as I can imagine. Simple home-sized processing equipment, though, is available at a reasonable price. I consider the minimal processing equipment to be a 5-gallon neoprene thermostatically controlled scalder and a tabletop picker. These can be had for about $300 and will allow a couple of people to process 10 to 20 birds per hour. Unless you're an expert eviscerator, you won't be able to go faster than that anyway. People I know who have invested this much in the minimal equipment have no problem keeping it busy, renting it out to other folks in the neighborhood who want to process their own poultry. Even if you decide chickens aren't for you, it is not a wasted investment. I suggest that you seriously consider investing this much, even for 50 or 100 birds, just because it will make the initial processing experience much more enjoyable. First impressions are important. One of the beauties of poultry is that the getting started is as simple as it is. It's nothing like starting in other livestock enterprises which require substantial acreage, fences, and facilities. The initial investment in a couple of cows or sheep is far more than getting started with 100 broilers and some mechanical processing equipment. One of the nice things about the pasture production model is that you need not build a chicken house. This means that a house and lot person can run the birds in his backyard in the portable pen. It exempts you from building ordinances because the pen is a machine. Remember that one pen moved daily outside or during the 36 to 40 days the birds are outside will only cover 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. Many people have that much in their yard. The point is that you need not own a farm, rent land, or do many of the other things that typical farming endeavors require. If local animal ordinances are a problem, remember that bureaucrats generally spend all their time handling complaints. These chickens do not make any noise. What makes noise is mature roosters crowing. Chances are, if you run the pen in your backyard, nobody will even know that you have a pen back there. If you have a complainer offer to take him a good chicken, make him an ally. I guarantee you have the prettiest, greenest lawn around. Perhaps you can start a new fad in your neighborhood. I think a few things would be as gratifying as seeing neighborhoods all over the country run a chicken pen in their yard to mow it, fertilize it, and produce their own chickens. How exciting. Anyway, the biggest hurdle to doing something is to start. We all know that most jobs are not nearly as bad as they seem. The hard part is starting. Many people ask me how to get started farming. My response is, well, what are you doing right now? Chances are all they are doing is stewing about doing something. Channel your frustrations into something positive. If you wait for a farm to be dropped in your lap before you start a garden or raise some chickens or rabbits, either at your place or someone else's, you will never do anything in farming. I guarantee you someone in your circle of acquaintances could use a hand making some hay, working some cattle, chopping thistles, or building a fence. You need to make a genuine commitment to doing something, anything, with or without